It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Eddie Mayo Maarson. We're here in your beautiful home in Amsterdam, and we have your daughter Shosha and your wife Devorah. And if you could tell us a little bit, and we're going to have the help of your daughter, about your family and your roots and how you survived the Shoah.
Ja, ik stam uit een...
Nee, in het Engels. I was born.
I was born in Amsterdam in 1938. They called me Eddie Mayo. The name Mayo they gave me because it was already wartime, and my second name, Mayo, is actually Meyer. But because of the problems in that time of the war, they gave me Mayo. The other name is Eddie. This is a normal, I think, English name. Yeah.
And you were born in Amsterdam?
I was born in Amsterdam from a very old Dutch family. We are already generations in Holland. The name Maarson is the name from a shtetl in Holland, and it is near Utrecht. And we are already generations long Dutch people.
Ja, ga maar verder. Vertel maar. So you were born in Amsterdam?
I was born in Amsterdam East, in the eastern part of Amsterdam. And this was a typical Jewish part. And when the war broke out, we were very lucky because there was a Dutch Christian family, very, very froom, and they were every Sunday going to the church. And how it came that we were connected to this non-Jewish family, because they were very froom Christians, and they were a certain Sunday in the church, and as it is the
custom
there, every Sunday the Galach is giving a
speech, a preach.
A preach. And that Sunday he gave a speech, and he said, "Listen, ladies and gentlemen, the people around here, when you have the possibility to take in your house non-Jews, you have the obligation..."
Jews, not non-Jews, Jews.
To take Jews
in your house.
You have the obligation to take the Jews in your house. And so it was that a certain Sunday the Galach gave his speech, and the people took the family Sigma, this were the non-Jews, and took our family in their house. There's a typical thing that the family where we were so froom that every Sunday, and not only every Sunday, every day, they were reading from the Bible. Interesting, they were reading from the Bible only the part of the Old Testament, not from the New Testament. And the father of the family gave, after every meal, he gave a preach, and he gave a little piece from the New Testament. They were unbelievable people because we were in their house. In the house there was my father Zigeunervrouge, my mother Zigeunervrouge, my sister, and myself.
And your grandfather.
And a very difficult part was my grandfather. My grandfather was 78. And my grandfather had what they call here in Holland Alzheimer. And the problem was that the family, their family name was Sigma. They got
neighbors.
They got the non-Jewish family, and every day they were reading from the New Testament. But there was a problem. There was a problem that the girl of the non-Jewish family who was living there,
above them, the neighbor.
Above there, had a
relationship.
Had a relationship with a German soldier. This was a problem because my late grandfather had a very strong voice, and they had this relation. And my grandfather, Zigeunervrouge, was reading from Tehillim, and he had a very strong voice. And we were very, very scared because the houses there where we lived were not so nice built. So we were
scared.
We were scared that the Jewish family who was living there, they could hear what was spoken with us and with the non-Jewish family. And it was not so difficult that my grandfather had a very strong voice that they could hear all things which were speaking there. But Baruch Hashem, nothing happened. And why nothing happened? We could hide in a certain small place, and with the whole family, when there was things
Danger.
to be dangerous, then it was possible that they should hear what we were speaking, and Chas v'sholem, the Jewish soldier, the German soldier could every word hear. But Baruch Hashem, never all the time there was nothing what was very dangerous. The people, the Christian people were very, very frum and very, very, they gave thought to all our problems. And they were praying and they were singing Tehillim, their Tehillim.
Psalms.
Psalm. So it was not without any problem. After the war, we recovered from all the bad things, and I show you a picture from this Christian family. You see here a woman, Goyshe Tzedekes, and the woman had a
sister.
And you see here
your father.
My father, Zichron Livrocha. My mother, Zichron Livrocha. And this was the boss of the family. He was such a fine man, a frum man, and he liked it to be in contact with my grandfather, and they were always speaking about religion subject. And here on the corner you see my late sister, and here you see Ania Koton.
That's you?
Yeah, that's my father.
And how old were you in this picture?
How old was
you? I was
6.
I was 6.
6 years old.
I was 6 years old. We had no house, and we want, when it was the liberation, we want to go out. Of course, they did more than their obligation was, and we want to go out. So we found a house, and the house belongs to the parents of my mother, and never they lived in a city where was in the summer there was all kinds of
seashore, and to recover, in order to recover from.
So they are living on the coast of Holland, and they had a house. They never. They didn't
come back. They
didn't come back from the
concentration
camps.
They were killed in Sobibor.
They were sent.
They were not Sobibor, in Auschwitz. And one of the most tragic things was that the father of my mother had the possibility
to hide
and to go out. He had the possibility, imagine, but he didn't go because he was together with his wife, and for the wife it was impossible to hide and to go out and all this schmutzige Sache. So this was the reason that they both didn't didn't hide the war. They didn't come back, and we never knew exactly what happened. I remember as younger that my mother made food and sent the food to the camp through the Red Cross, sent the food, and I think it was a fantasie. This food
never arrived.
Never reached. And I think my mother was in a fantasie, and we all were in a fantasie that this food would
reach
my opa and my oma, but it didn't reach them. So our story is a story which all the fine Jiden, brave Jiden went through. But how can we think?
Shall I tell about the passing away of your grandfather and your opa?
Yeah, because he's not in the picture.
And he's not in the picture because he didn't survive. But he died in hiding by this family Sigma, who were, as my father said, real tzaddikim. And eventually, my father actually was at first in Elspeth, in a place separated from his parents and his sister. And he had a very, very nice time there by farmers who took very good care of him. There were chickens and cows and little animals where he could play, and he was quite safe there. But my grandmother, she had a little window in the hiding place by the family Sigma, and she got so homesick to my father that she said to family Sigma, could my son come also? Do you have place for my son? And Mr. Sigma said, where there is place in the heart, there is place in the house. So my father was brought from Friesland, from Elspeth to Amsterdam by train, by a illegal organization as a young boy, and he was being said that he should be quiet and not say anything about his identity. And then they came from Friesland to Amsterdam, and they passed the place Maarson, which my father told, a village next to Utrecht. And the conductor of the train would whistle on his whistle, and he would call out the name, and he would say Maarson. And then my father came on the station, and he said to the man of the illegal service, he said, I heard that they called me, but I never said something. I kept my mouth quiet. And then from then on, there were the 5 of them, so my grandparents, my aunt, and my father, and my grandfather's father, with that low and hard voice. And during the war, he died a natural death but what did they have to do with the body? And it was hidden under the floor. So my grandmother, she sewed some death clothes, some tachrichin for my grandfather, very primitive with blankets, whatever, I don't know exactly. And then the illegal service came to pick up my great grandfather from that address, and they put him on a Dutch bicycle, which is very, very big, with the head on the front and the legs on the front piece of a second bicycle, and they start biking to try and find a Jewish cemetery. Then they heard from far that there was coming a razzia with German soldiers, and so they quickly put the body around a tree in not wallpaper, but paper van een krant, a newspaper, newspapers. They wrapped him in newspapers, and when they wrapped him around, the people of the illegal service went to stand on a distance to see what would happen. And there was a young couple standing next to the tree. They didn't know, and they didn't notice that there was a body lying on the floor. And they waited until the Gestapo would pass, and by accident the girl stamped with her foot on the face of my grandfather, and the newspaper fell open, and she started to scream, "That's Mr. Maarson, I know who he is, he was my old boss." So because she recognized him and could say who he was, they picked him up and they brought him to the nearest church which was around, and the galach who was at the head of that church would hide him for a few days and try to get him to a Jewish cemetery. Then he was buried on the Portuguese Jewish cemetery, where there was someone who could bury illegally, and after the war they got him out of the grave, and everybody who survived buried him again on the Jewish cemetery here in Muidenberg, where he is lying next to his wife. So but imagine what those people did and what a tzaddikim they were. I remember my grandparents telling me that when it was winter, very bitterly cold, and there was ice outside, my aunt looked very, very Jewish, as you can see, very dark and very Jewish. My father, on the other hand, was very blonde and a very light boy. So they let him play outside with the ice, making ice balls and playing outside safe. But my aunt had to stay inside. So the people said if the children who are playing outside could play outside, then the Jewish children inside could also play. And they filled up a basket full of ice, and they poured it out in their salon. And she played with ice too. So just to show what a big heart they had and what they did to give comfort to the Jewish family. And after the war, I can still remember it. My grandfather, who had a factory of mattresses and beddings, he took all these people as personnel into the business and gave them their income, Baruch Hashem. And we always were close to them till they died.
We gave them a Yad Vashem
reward. Yes. So they were just unbelievable.
My husband said, "Oh, we won't succeed." And then I said, "Wait and see, I'm going to ask for them," and they got it,
Yes, but they were such humble people that it was too much for them. They were so quiet, never giving up, never showing up, showing up that whatever they did, they were just quiet. I remember when my grandmother passed away and my father was sitting Shiva, there was on the table there was a tzedakah pishke from the Chevra Kadisha, and we would collect money in the Shiva as is the custom. And she came to visit my father a shiva visit for my grandmother. And then she called me outside and she put money into my hand and she said, "You put it in the tzedakah pishke." So I said, "But Tante Ali, why you stand next to it? Why don't you do it yourself?" So she said, "No, the room is full. What do people have to see that I give them tzedakah? You give it and they think that it's your." Like that kind of people they were unbelievable. Angels, just not making any fuss about it, not making any showing up, nothing. They are just heilige people.
Did they have any of their own children?
No, there were two unmarried sisters and the father. So there were.
He was an almond.
He was an almond. He was a widower. Yeah. So but just because the priest said in the church, whoever is taking Jews do a holy task, that was their luck and they took them in. So
and how long were you in hiding?
How long were you in hiding?
First I started in Elspeet, in
Friesland
village. It was Gelderland, it's niet. Yeah, and I think I was there half a year at the end.
At the end of the war. At the end of the war.
Yeah.
Yes. But they were longer. My grandparents were longer, from like 42, 43. So, and they shared every bite from their mouth, they shared with them. And like my father said, they respected the Old Testament so much. They were always speaking about the religion. They wouldn't insult them with the New Testament. So on Christmas, when they would sing their psalms and when they would speak about whatever they're speaking on Christmas, they said we won't speak about it, just to respect and not to insult the Jewish part of the family. So it was amazing. Like types like that we hardly know.
Were they Roman Catholic or Calvinist?
No, there were Rooms, gereformeerd, reformed Christians.
They don't bring in a Christmas tree.
They didn't have a tree.
They knew that it's forbidden for us.
It would be painful. So they left it out, not to insult the Jewish part.
And how did they manage to get enough food? Being in hiding to have, it must have been so dangerous and so difficult.
Very.
We gaan zo eten, Herman.
Very, very difficult, but they managed. And actually, the illegal person who brought my father from Gelderland to Amsterdam when my grandmother was homesick to him, they had die Dienke is their granddaughter van Hondius. That man was called Hondius, and he has a granddaughter. She's my age, and she works in the Anne Frank house. And she leads people around, and her whole life is already with her head in the Holocaust. And she did a lot of research about her father and came on the name of my father, that her father brought my father to Amsterdam then. So like a year ago she called us and she said, "I'm the granddaughter of the illegal person who brought your father by train from Gelderland to Amsterdam, and can we meet?" So since then we are very close to her. She comes a lot to us, and she wrote a book about the war and everything, and she goes to all the hiding places. She's doing research in Amsterdam to all the hiding places of Jews which she still can find, and if there are still survivors. So she went to the address where my father was hidden with my grandparents and my aunt, and she called there. She rang the bell to the people who lived there, and she asked if she could go and see the apartment where they were hidden, and they agreed. So me, my mother and my sister went half a year ago, only half a year, imagine 80 years after the war, we went back to that hiding place and we saw under the floor where they were hiding. I have a film about it, and my sister and I made a broche there, Sha'asan Nes La'avi B'makom Hazeh. That, but because we had never been there. We knew the address, but we had never been inside. So we saw the hiding place under the floor where they were hiding when there was danger. So yeah.
This was also my grandfather had when he hid.
He was a tall man.
Yeah, he had
stiff legs.
To do like this, yeah.
To move his legs.
He was
stiff.
He
was 78 and was so like this.
Making
and then
noise.
My late father said, Papa, still. But he
didn't understand.
He didn't understand the whole time.
It was very dangerous because he was praying loud and speaking loud, so it was a danger for the whole family.
Yeah.
So but I could show you the film.
Could you keep Shabbat, or did your family know?
No. I tell you, they had family, and that family had a little shop outside Amsterdam. And this family brought from time to time some food. And I remember this man of this shop came and said, "Hey, listen, this is a fish." And everybody was a fish. And they want to give this fish on Shabbat. It was a present. And nobody knew where was the fish. Everybody was looking, there was the fish.
It disappeared.
It disappeared, we didn't know. And this fish they put behind the stove so that you couldn't see where the fish was. And the whole family was looking, but my mother saw that I was not doing anything. I was looking. So my mother said, "Eddie, do you know where is the fish?" "Yes, Mommy, I know." "No, what did you do? You brought the fish there on a certain place." And my mother said, "Why did you do this? We want to eat, we want to have a real meal, and you are..." And I say, "No, Mommy, I didn't bring it because jullie zijn zo onzuinig."
You're not saving up anything. You are just spending and you're not saving anything.
Yeah.
So
Jullie zijn zo onzuinig, and this is the reason that I don't show you
where the fish is.
But you know, his parents after the war were not Dati anymore. But Eddie went to a yeshiva in Israel, Kol Torah, and there he became frum. And his parents, they were really fantastic. They made a kosher household in order that we could eat there. And my mother-in-law was actually atheist. She was against every religion, but for us she did everything, you know, what was necessary. She was an amazing woman, and I got very friendly with her, and but she was against every religion. She said the religion is the
blood.
The blood.
The religion makes the war in the world, only because religion, and therefore I'm against every religion. But you know, she was very modern and
Well, very high ethics, very high.
and artistic, but she respected our way of life.
And your father-in-law?
Yeah, he was more
Yeah, he came from a very religious family.
Yeah, and
His great-grandfather was very, very religious.
And he was the Gazen in shul. He had a beautiful voice, but his mother was against everything.
How did you manage to go to Kol Torah? That's quite a...
No, his father wanted him in the business.
Today, I remember a lot of boys from
irreligious
family in Kol Torah.
And
you wanted to go? Did you ask to go?
Yeah. His father wanted him in the business, but he was not, you know...
A business type.
He was not
more
capable.
A rabbinic type.
He didn't like the business. So then he started to work in the rabbinate and slowly became a rabbi. He got a smicha.
Wait, in Kol Torah?
Here, from Kol Torah to Holland. So.
And your sister, did she...
No, she died.
No,
she died in a young age.
My sister
was also not religious, but...
No, how's it called? Masorati.
Traditional.
Traditional.
She was a very special woman. She was my best friend, but she died in a young age. And she lived in a moshav near Rishon. And the last year of her life, she suffered a lot. She had bone cancer, and
Did she get married?
Yeah, she had got 3 children, but she was laying in bed, breaking her leg just by laying in bed. And the last year of her life, I looked after her. Yeah.
Her husband was also a Dutch man, and he was all obsessed about the Shoah. Maybe you know, when you land on Lod, you see on the way to Tel Aviv, you see a windmill at the side of the high road. He built that as a memory to Dutch Jewry. Mishmar HaShiv'a it's called, and the Moshav, and he called it Al Tishkach 4045. He called the windmill, and it was a original windmill who could...
And the children are living still today.
Yeah, they live there, and it could grind flour, so it had a... Yeah.
So Eddie, can I ask you, and it's a difficult question, but maybe it's an unfair question as well, but a very important question. If somebody would come to you today and say, would you look after a non-Jewish family that would endanger your own family, if the tables were turned, how would you react?
I mean, I knew that this husband of my sister will never keep anything. So I don't
judge. Judge. Veroordeel niet.
Nee, spoil.
Nee, maar hij vraagt wat als de zaken omgekeerd waren en jou werd gevraagd of je een niet-Joodse familie in huis wil nemen die in gevaar zijn. Wat de Sigma's hebben gedaan.
Now you know there were here a Russian family.
I'm not such a tzaddik.
Wat zegt u?
I'm not such a tzaddik.
So what this family did, and Josh, if we could just tell the family again,
yes,
is they risked their lives to save save your family.
Yeah, unbelievable.
But we always say 10 years ago we heard that in a little place in Holland there were Russian people who got very
anti-Semitic
people there.
Yeah. So, and they had 2 daughters. We took them in our house and took them away from there, and they were living by us. And, you know,
But that was not dangerous. Les is
wasn't.
asking, what would you do if you would
okay,
be in the
but
same
still.
situation?
It's so difficult to
Of course, no,
think
so-
what they did. They risked not only their lives, they risked their families.
Their
in order to
families,
save
and also the Jewish
strangers.
family was
Yeah.
also in danger. But what we always, that's the real trauma in Dutch Jewry. We always say, as my father says, we are not such a tzaddikim. I don't think we would take to endanger our own children and our own, we won't. But what the Dutch Goyim did, and that we'll never forgive, is that they betrayed them. If you wouldn't take a Jewish family, we all understand. We understood. I could understand people that they didn't help to endanger their own lives. But for 7 gulden 50, which nowadays is about €5, they would betray their neighbor, and within quarter of an hour, their whole household, they would chap to them, and they would say, that family, that family, that family. They would betray them, and they would be massacre them to the German authorities and to the Dutch police, and say, from A till Z, we know where Jews live, and that's what we will never forgive to any Goy living here in the Netherlands. That they betrayed the Jewish population who was integrated into the Dutch.
For many centuries.
For many centuries, they were they loved the monarchy, they loved the king, they loved the queen. They never did anything wrong. They built up the economy of Dutch popularity, and that people who, and still nowadays still we do feel that because they always say in Holland there are no anti-Semites. There are under skin. They hate us, they still hate us, and we're still looking over our shoulders from what side they could betray us, whether it is in Bris Milah or in Schieten or in education, or it's always the Jews who get the filth over their head, and who they are.
You know, there is a Jewish cheder here, and surrounded by a wall, children can't look at the street only because it's so dangerous. And the police is watching them every day, is standing a police car.
24/7.
Is it normal in 2023 that a child can't go to school without a police surrounding? That's not normal. That's not normal.
That's the thing which if you ask what we are traumatized about, it's that. It's that fact
The
that
anti-Semitism,
the Dutch Goyim betrayed the Jewish popularity, and that they actively helped the Germans and the Nazis to betray their fellow Jews who never did anything wrong and only built up the Dutch economy.
And the Dutch police were
The
accomplices.
Dutch police was active and were treif from
you know,
all
I
sides.
had a speech in a Gorsche school a few years ago, and when I finished, I said, "Are there any questions?" So a boy stands up, he said, "I can't understand, why didn't you go to the police if you were in such a danger?" Now, I didn't dare to say that the police was, you know, fout. So I said, well, that's a good question, but I'm wondering if the police could have done something, you know. But I didn't dare. The whole hall was full with Goyim. So
And until today, I must say, until today, my husband is working in his law firm. He's a lawyer. Daily, he has requests from people who had valuable things, money, property, jewelry, fur, pictures, all kinds
taken
of
away.
valuable things which were taken away by the Goyish population, and still are fighting to get it back. It's known, and daily he has requests to try and help finding it. It became a sport, you know, to try and get things back, because nowadays the Iria is obliged
the municipality.
the authority is obliged to give information about living places, houses, ownership, and they're fighting to get the valuable things back. So till today they don't acknowledge that they stole the minute after they were taken
You know,
into
when people
transport.
came back from the war, they had to pay the water, the gas, and
Bills.
bills from what they were during the war. Can you imagine? They came after the war, still with the bills that has to be paid. Unbelievable.
So the world hasn't changed.
Has your husband been successful? Has he?
A few times, yes, and not only my husband, but the Jewish community. There were sums of money given back. Like a few years ago, both my parents got an amount of money of the train company in Holland. There was a guy who was fighting it. He was a
So
victim.
the people were brought to Westerbork, got some money.
Because they had to pay their own train ticket, and the man who fought the case, he himself was a victim of a lot of hiding places. He's called Salo Müller, Kola Kavot for him. He fought like his ears
Like
out.
a lion.
A lion.
Family.
He's
And-
family of ours, and he fought for the whole Jewish community, and every victim who was registered as being a victim via Westerbork to the concentration camp got €7,500. And if the
Yeah.
parents were not alive anymore, so the six children Laufer got also the part of the my
And you know what we
grandparents.
did with the money? We bought a Sefer Torah in
memory.
in honor to our parents. And it
From
is
that money.
From that money, and that's in Rehovot. And you don't know, that was a celebration. I can't tell you. That was something, you know.
So that's what we are kind of obsessed against the non-Jewish population in Holland, that they are still not honest, still lying, still holding back, still sitting. A few years ago, I had a how do you call it, a leakage in my house, and I had a plumber, a real Dutchman, a big guy coming in, and he had to break the wall and to see the pipeline behind the wall, what was going on. And he said, "Madam," on very Dutch, with a very Dutch accent, "Are you afraid for corpses?" I said, "For corpses? Why?" "Well, when I break open the wall, it could be that there's a corpse behind the wall."
I see it often.
No, so I laughed and I said, "You're making a joke." But so he said, "But could it be that you're Jewish? Because I came in here and I saw a little thing on your door, and I see here the chandelier with the 8 arms. Are you Jewish?" So I said, yes, I am. Why do you ask?" So he said, "Because I work a lot in the center of Amsterdam, and then I have to go onto attics, and I break down walls into attics, and I find cassettes full of silverware
Jewelry.
hidden behind walls. Do you know that?" So I said, "Oh yes, and what do you do with it?" So he said, "Oh, I give it to my boss." So
Yeah,
I said,
yeah.
"Next time call me. I know what to do with it." So he said, "I have that a lot of times a year when I go to the center of Amsterdam, all hidden silverware, fur coats, hidden in the attics."
Jewelry.
So imagine, so there are still companies and still goyim, and a lot of goyim who are still unfair and unworthy to look the other in the eye. That's my message.
Behind us we have the pictures of...
The great-grandparents. The
They were
great-grandparents.
Dutch.
They were Dutch, yes.
So you can see the Jews in Holland are many generations.
Many, and were
centuries.
very integrated and very high standard, like adding to the popularity, adding to the wealth of Holland. So they owed a lot of gratitude to the Jews, but they got the opposite.
again, I just want to thank you all so very, very much. I just come in to just thank you. Thank you so much. I am so grateful to you, and I'm so grateful to your family.
Pleasure.
And it's just been such an
Thank you.
unbelievable
Thank you.
honor and a privilege to be here.
It is good to have more friends in the world, Jewish people and people with Segel. This is rewach.
But you know, to see this picture and to see that there were good
Good
people
people.
people
Yes.
that risked their lives. And thank God they did, otherwise we wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, fantastic
So
people.
it is something to admire. And if only there were more people like that.
Ja, allebei.
But you're a miracle that you're alive.
Yes, yes.
Baruch Hashem, and look what you've
Baruch Hashem.
achieved.
But
Yeah.
what you are doing is amazing. It's
Unbelievable.
so important.
But what you are doing is published.
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah, that
Well,
komt.
I want to thank you all so much.
Thank
And you
you
should
very
only have
much.
mazel and bracha at Mevestrin with all of Hashem's brachas and
That
nachas
the
from your
Lord
family.
who will reward you. for
No,
your
shall reward, and you should have the.
important work what you do.
You're very kind, but you should have the strength to continue, and that you should all continue
Amen.
and doing the
Thank you.
mitzvahs and the
Thank
such
you.
the important work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Dat was
Hier, papa. Papa. Wacht even. Hier zit ja. Zo ongelooflijk zeg. Jeetje. Nee. Kijk eens. Oh, dan moeten we er even uit. Ja, ze hebben, omdat het water, er zat water in, dus ze hebben nu al die balletjes denk ik om het water om dat op te zuigen. Maar het was een stuk dieper. Maar dan kan je amper staan, dan kan je dus alleen maar gebogen zitten.
achter.